You might have thought the lore series was done after that last episode, but no, we are so back. So from here on out, we're going to be talking about all the things in the Stalker sphere. Sometimes directly related to Stalker lore, sometimes about gameplay, sometimes about characters, etc, etc, etc. In today's episode, we're going to go over the timeline of the original 3 games, Shadow of Chernobyl, Clear Sky, and Call of Pripyat respectively. We'll cover the history of the events leading up to the Chernobyl disaster, as well as the events that occurred in the timeline of the games. Some forewarning, you're going to hear me say the words unspecified date a lot in this video, because we're given the year for many events, but no day or month, so just be ready for that. Alright, let's dive right into it. 1960, unspecified date. The Institute of Crop Selection and Genetics is founded as a cover story for Soviet special research into consciousness control. February 4th, 1970. The city of Pripyat is founded as a nuclear city in the Soviet Union, built to house civilians and eventual workers of the CNPP. August 15th, 1972. Ground is officially broken and the building of the Chernobyl power plant, then called the Vladimir Lenin power plant, begins. 1972, unspecified date. The Duga-1 missile warning radar installation begins construction. July 1976. Duga-1 becomes operational. It's so powerful, it interferes with shortwave radios. September 26, 1977. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant passes its commission. All systems are deemed safe and ready for operation. The plant begins supplying power to the grid. 1980, unspecified date. The Jupiter factory is opened and it becomes the second largest employer besides the power plant. Officially, a factory making tape recorders and other such devices, rumors swirl around the plant, claiming it to be a cover for secret research and weapons testing. At the time, the rumors could not be confirmed. 1981, unspecified date. The Science Center, in what would later become the Dark Valley, begins its construction, never to be finished. February 1986. Soviet officials are quoted as saying the odds of a nuclear meltdown in the Soviet Union are, quote, 1 in 10,000 years. At this time, the CNPP has 4 active reactors operating and 2 more under construction. April 26, 1986. Around 1:23 a.m., Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl power plant explodes, releasing deadly radioactive material over a wide zone. This would become known as the first Chernobyl disaster. April 28, 1986. The city of Pripyat and other local settlements are rapidly evacuated. The first few liquidators begin arriving. Work to clean up the site begins. June 1986. Construction of the sarcophagus begins. At this point, 400 square kilometers around the CNPP have been strictly cordoned off and labeled as the Chernobyl exclusion zone. 1986, unspecified date. The Institute of Crop Selection and Genetics is shut down. All crops and fields are destroyed. November 1986. Construction of the sarcophagus is finished. 1987, unspecified date. The Institute of Crop Selection and Genetics is reorganized and renamed to the Agripom Research Institute. December 1989. The Duga-1 radar installation is taken off combat alert and decommissioned. 1989, unspecified date. The Sea Consciousness Project begins. Led by scientists from the group, the presence of high-powered antennas in the zone, a still-functioning power plant, and low human population would provide the perfect setting for clandestine research into various methods aimed at fixing the flaws of humanity. With this objective in mind, several X-labs are set up throughout the zone. December 26, 1991. The Soviet Union collapses. Several nations break away from the USSR and form their own republics. As a result, Several former Soviet military and scientific research projects lose state funding and are discontinued. The group, unwilling to cease operations, press their research deeper into what they call the noosphere. The new Ukrainian government is unable to assert control over the ongoing projects inside the exclusion zone. March 6, 1998. Engineers working for a local contractor witnessed 6 large field generators having been built deep inside the zone. Speculation around their purposes abounds. Some claim they are being used as part of bizarre psychic tests. February 22, 1999. Concerned by unsettling reports of unauthorized and illegal experimentation going on inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone, the Ukrainian State Security Service launches an investigation. Several accounts and intelligence reports are filed detailing the tests held in underground research labs. State security attempts to take control of the situation by sending a commission into the zone. They find no success. 2001, unspecified date. The zone begins to attract unwanted attention. Rumors about strange phenomenon and deformed creatures continue to grow. Shortly after, a bus full of tourists disappears without a trace. This causes state security, along with the regular army, to seal off the exclusion zone completely. 2003, unspecified date. The Agroprom Institute begins working for the group under the direction of Peter Stritz. 2004, unspecified date. A top-secret electromagnetic rifle project, codenamed Item 62, being developed at the Jupiter Factory Complex, is cancelled. The research staff is evacuated from the zone. 2005, unspecified date. 7 volunteers from the group have their minds joined together in an experiment. This would become known as the common consciousness. They begin to exert their influence over the noosphere. The previously mentioned unnatural phenomenon start having an influence over a wider area. Over the course of the year, significant changes in weather patterns are noticed, including hurricane winds and tremors. March 4th, 2006. A phenomenon of blinding light illuminates the sky above the CNPP. The incident is recorded as lasting 2 full hours before subsiding. Witnesses reported the light disappearing suddenly as if it was turned off. April 12, 2006. The phenomenon repeats itself, with the skies illuminated by an intolerably bright light. The clouds evaporate and a tremendous thundering crash can be heard. After the thunder fades, there is an ominous silence, followed by a 6.9 magnitude earthquake. The glow in the sky continues and spreads over the entire region. While deadly energy disturbances rage through the zone, search and rescue efforts are declared impossible. June 10th, 2006. The zone is rocked on an unprecedented scale by glowing skies, hurricane winds, sundering thunder, and freak energy surges. The zone abruptly expands by 5 kilometers. Most of the military presence around the perimeter perish, along with the scientists and staff of the various underground labs who are killed. Panic spreads as nearby villages are evacuated. This is marked as the first emission and the birth of the anomalous zone. New instances of anomalies are reported, with some defying the very laws of physics. This state would later be known as the Second Disaster. 2006 aftermath, unspecified dates. The Ukrainian military moves in force to the center of the zone. The objective is to destroy it with the use of a tactical nuclear weapon. However, without protective gear, proper equipment, or adequate information or mapping of the zone, most ground forces are killed before ever reaching the objective. The few that did reach the CNPP are destroyed by a secondary emission, but less intense than the first. The operation ends in massive failure, and survivors are left behind by command to fend for themselves. Captain Tchenko, the squad leader for a group of survivors, decides to create an independent group inside the zone dedicated to fighting against the evil spawn of the zone. They call themselves Duty. At the same time, Lebedev parts ways with the group. He is joined by 2 fellow scientists, Kalancha and Suslov. These 3 would go on to create the Clear Sky faction. 2007, many unspecified dates for several events. The scientists who remain with the group continue to study the zone and discover the first artifacts. With the new high-capacity batteries made with parts of the Flash artifact, the Item 62 project is restarted and completed. A few dozen weapons are created in the Jupiter factory before production is moved to an underground facility, leaving Jupiter abandoned for good. A network of psi emitters are activated in the zone to protect the sea consciousness from outsider attempts to reach the center of the zone. This would be named the Brain Scorcher. Scientists are still unable to explain what exactly happened during the second disaster. Most expeditions into the zone end in total losses of life. The few who manage to return report the first sightings of mutated creatures with unusual abilities. September 28, 2009. Scientists in Kiev succeed in creating a special device for detecting anomalous activity at a distance of up to 10 meters. During the winter, an expedition is launched with participants in protective suits and equipped with detectors. They make it 1 kilometer into the zone and return without injury or incident. August 17, 2010. Expeditions begin to penetrate further into the zone. One particular expedition locates a camp attributed to the first Stalker. It is the first confirmation of unauthorized, non-military outsiders inside of the cordon. Artifacts are also found, the first to be found by non-sea consciousness personnel. 2010, unspecified date. Rumors of artifacts and their powers continue to grow. A black market spawns in response. Hundreds of trespassing stalkers sneak into the zone, working to get rich hunting artifacts. Early 2011. Specific dates not given for most of the events. Elements of the State Security Service, reinforced by several regular Army detachments, mount a second raid to the center of the zone. The aim is to seize control of the CNPP and, with luck, eliminate the source of the anomalies. Military forces are flown over the anomalies and parachuted directly into the center of the zone. Unfortunately, similar to the failed 2006 operation, another massive emission is triggered, destroying most of the military presence. The operation is a complete failure. Major Zvyagintsev is one of the few surviving members of the raid. He's picked up a month later by duty forces and enlisted into their ranks. The Ukrainian government initially ignored stalkers in the zone, but after it's reported that artifacts are finding their way into the hands of corporations and foreign governments, they reevaluate their policy. They decide to retaliate against illegal stalkers, arresting over 70 stalkers and forcibly closing 10 trading posts. A small band of free stalkers, going by the names Strelok, Fang, and Ghost, managed to successfully circumvent the Brain Scorcher using secret underground tunnels. They make their way undetected to the CNPP and infiltrate the sarcophagus. The infiltration triggers a severe emission, reshaping the zone entirely. Explored paths become blocked by anomalies and previously impassable routes become open, allowing access to new areas. The military presence at the Army warehouse is almost completely wiped out. The military forces at the barrier are killed instantly. Survivors at the Army warehouses claim their superiors did not respond to their cries for help and evacuation. Several free stalkers start making sizable profits digging for valuables in the garbage. Bandits under Yoga quickly move to take over the area. Stalkers are expected to pay taxes for bandit protection. Those who do not are enslaved and forced to dig or retrieve artifacts from deadly areas. Early September 2011. A large group of stalkers disappears after attempting to penetrate the Brain Scorcher. The group soon reorganizes into a heavily armed, radicalized faction called the Monolith, with a belief that claims the zone is alive and that there is an alien crystal in the center of the zone called the Wish Granter, of which the group is its sole protector. The Monolith quickly established a headquarters at the CNPP and a forward base in Pripyat. Both sites are fiercely defended. Not too long after the establishment of the Monolith, the faction wars begin. With the mission reshaping the zone, the factions scramble for loot and territory. Conflict inevitably emerges. The loners fight the bandits over control of the garbage and the cordon. Duty engages in conflicts with Freedom after both factions arrive in Limansk around the same time. The squads fight for control over the area, sparking a larger war between the factions. With the faction wars raging, the Monolith faction makes their first appearance in the southern areas of the zone. Initial reports are that they're heavily armed and hostile to all. September 10th, 2011. The Clear Sky game begins when S.T.A.L.K.E.R, a veteran mercenary, wakes up in the Clear Sky camp after being caught in the previously mentioned mission. He begins operating as an agent of Clear-Sky, eventually helping the Clear-Sky faction secure the Great Swamp. Shortly after, Clear-Sky learns about Fang, an associate of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. S.K.E.R is sent after him. Mid-September 2011. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R program is launched by the Sea Consciousness. Its purpose is to brainwash stalkers to carry out specific missions and infiltrate different factions. Early October 2011. Fang and Ghost assemble the components needed to build 2 decoders capable of cracking the lock on a mysterious door they found inside the sarcophagus. October 25th, 2011. Following a skirmish with the military patrol and a group of free stalkers, the Ukrainian government authorizes the shoot-on-sight policy towards any stalker inside the zone, a policy still active today. November 2011. The mercenary S.T.A.L.K.E.R finds S.T.A.L.K.'s hideout. He learns S.T.A.L.K.E.R did manage to reach the center of the zone and plans to return there. Not too long after, S.T.A.L.K.E.R learns Clear-Sky is after him. In order to make his second trip to the center of the zone, he requires protection. For this, he visits the ecologist at Lake Yantar and acquires a psi helmet. Without time to regroup with Fang and Ghost, S.T.A.L.K.E.R makes his way to the center of the zone alone. He uses a route through Lab X-16, a route which S.T.A.L.K.E.R cannot follow without psi missions turning him into a zombie. So S.T.A.L.K.E.R and some other stalkers reactivate the lab cooling system, dampening the psi field enough to pass through unaffected. However, S.T.A.L.K.E.R again uses the underground tunnels to bypass the brain scorcher and reach the center of the zone. He blows them up behind him, closing the way for S.T.A.L.K.E.R or any other stalkers to follow. During this time, Freedom, after being harassed and weakened by mercenaries, are forced to leave their base in the Dark Valley by bandits, who press their advantage against the weakened Freedom members. The remnants find their way to the army warehouses. No terms are offered to the few battered soldiers taking refuge there. They are wiped out by Freedom, who take control of the army warehouses for themselves. Clear-Sky captures and lowers the bridge to Limansk. Lebedev himself leads his troops. They hope by passing through the city, they should have access to the tunnels leading to the CNPP. At the same time, Ghost and Fang make their way to the army warehouses, but are ambushed. Fang is killed by a mercenary sniper with a scar on his face. Late November 2011. Clear-Sky ending. After fighting their way through Limansk and the underground tunnels, Clear-Sky emerges at the CNPP and looks to stop S.T.A.L.K.E.R. S.K.E.R stops S.T.A.L.K.E.R by shooting him with an electromagnetic rifle. This does not calm the zone, but unleashes yet another blowout. The Clear-Sky forces are annihilated. S.T.A.L.K.E.R is not killed. He is captured by the Sea Consciousness and turned into a brainwashed agent. He receives the Stalker tattoo on his forearm. The fate of the mercenary S.K.E.R remains unknown. Early 2012. A Monolith platoon gains entry to Lab X-16 beneath Lake Yantar. A military unit is sent to intercept them. The ensuing firefight inside Lab X-16 causes heavy casualties on both sides. However, the Monolith are victorious, with a few surviving members reaching the control room and turning the psi emitter to full power. April 2012. The government of Ukraine launches Project Truth. The goal of this project is to covertly investigate the strange experiments carried out inside the zone. May 1st, 2012. Shadow of Chernobyl game begins. The Marked I awakes in Sidorovich's bunker after surviving a crash in the death truck. He has lost his memory, and all he has is a stalker brand on his forearm and a message on his PDA telling him to kill the stalker known as S.T.A.L.K.E.R. May 12th, 2012. Captain Mamashenko investigates the long-abandoned Agroprom Research Institute in the Agroprom sector. Documents found there reveal it as a front for the group. On orders from Sidorovich, the Marked I covertly infiltrates the Agroprom Research Institute and steals the military documents, revealing the situation to Sidorovich and the other traitors. Late May 2012. Ghost is killed inside Lab X-16, attempting to disable the psi emitter with the help of Professor Vasilyev. Unfortunately, Vasilyev panics and runs away to be killed by zombies. Ghost himself is killed by a controller. In the same time frame on the other side of the zone, the Marked I infiltrates Lab X-18. He finds documents related to the experiments conducted there. June 2012. With the leads uncovered in the Lab X-18 documents, the Marked I and the traitors learn the location of Lab X-16. The Marked I travels to the ecologist bunker in Yantar, acquiring a new psi helmet. He's asked to disable the psi emitter for good. He infiltrates the lab and succeeds in shutting down the psi emitter. He also finds the body of Ghost. With the information found on Ghost's body, the Marked One learns about two of S.T.A.L.K.E.R's contacts, Guide and Doctor. Upon meeting Doctor, the harsh truth is revealed. The Marked One has been S.T.A.L.K.E.R all along. Doctor also informs S.T.A.L.K.E.R one of the decoders is still hidden in his stash somewhere in Pripyat, if he still wishes to discover the secrets of the zone. Early July 2012. Still in possession of his new psi helmet, S.T.A.L.K.E.R battles his way through the Red Forest and the radar, eventually reaching the Brain Scorcher and disabling it. With the Brain Scorcher disabled, stalkers from all factions rush to the center of the zone, lured by tales of powerful and valuable artifacts and the legend of the Wish Granter. The military as well seizes the opportunity, launching Operation Monolith. They almost succeed in taking control of the CNPP after Monolith forces were decimated by their armored units. But yet again, their efforts are thwarted by a massive blowout. S.T.A.L.K.E.R manages to avoid the blowout and infiltrates the CNPP, gaining entry to the sarcophagus. S.T.A.L.K.E.R, using the decoder he found at his stash in Pripyat, manages to open the secret door in the sarcophagus, revealing a secret Monolith lab. It's also revealed that the large Wish Granter crystal is just a hologram, another tool used to lure stalkers to the center of the zone. S.T.A.L.K.E.R also meets with a hologram, calling itself the Sea Consciousness representative, who answers all of S.T.A.L.K.E.'s questions. They confirm that it is no trick and he is the stalker S.T.A.L.K.E.R. They also confirm that the Sea Consciousness is responsible for the creation of the zone. At the end of the conversation, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is offered the chance to join them and link his mind to the rest of the Sea Consciousness. However, S.T.A.L.K.E.R declines the offer. He leaves the CNPP and begins a search for the laboratory containing the Sea Consciousness. The Monolith attempt to stop him, but present little resistance in their depleted state. Eventually, S.T.A.L.K.E.R makes his way to the underground lab just north of the CNPP. Although hesitant for a moment, S.T.A.L.K.E.R does destroy the Sea Consciousness, killing all those connected to it. As a result, the zone becomes more unstable and the Monolith faction weakens significantly. Several bands are able to break away from Monolith control. Strider and his squad are among them. Late July 2012. The Free Stalkers Beard and Grouse establish a stalker camp aboard a grounded container ship in Zatan. A Freedom detachment led by Loki is sent to scout the center of the zone. They arrive at Yanov Station and engage in a severe gun battle with duty forces following after them. They are led by Lieutenant Colonel Shulga. There are many casualties, including unaffiliated stalkers caught in the crossfire. During the battle, the Freedomer Zulu senses an emission incoming. Loki stands down his forces and allows duty to shelter alongside them. Both leaders agree to make Yanov Station neutral territory. A scientific bunker is established near Yanov Station, led by Professor Herman. It ends up being guarded by contracted mercenaries. Unknown to the ecologists, the mercenaries are really there to steal their work. Undeterred by the failure of Operation Monolith, the military launches Operation Fairway. Learning from past experience, the military develops anti-mission protection for the Mi-24 helicopter. They design battle plans based on maps of anomaly fields taken throughout the zone. The Spetsnaz soldiers are equipped with the latest weapons and protective gear. The operation ends in almost immediate failure upon reaching the mission zone. All 5 Stingray helicopters are downed. The fate of the known mission personnel are as follows. Colonel Kowalski, Field Commander, survived. Sergeant Sliachin, killed in action. Sergeant Gazda, killed in action. Captain Fortez, killed in action. Captain Shiveko, killed in action. Captain Tarasov, survived. Senior Sergeant Morozon, survived. Lieutenant Podorozhny, survived. Warrant Officer Valentier, survived. Warrant Officer Umarov, killed in action. Senior Lieutenant Smolyak, killed in action. Lieutenant Drapai, killed in action. Senior Lieutenant Sokolov, survived. Major Naborsky, killed in action. Senior Sergeant Batyai, killed in action. The legendary stalker known as Guide leads the survivors of Operation Fairway to Pripyat, but after communication with headquarters proves impossible, the military survivors create a makeshift base inside the laundromat. August 3rd, 2012. Call of Pripyat game begins. SBU agent Major Degtyarev arrives in the zone as an undercover free stalker to investigate the failure of Operation Fairway. August 2012, unspecified event dates. Degtyarev uncovered the Stingray crash sites and through investigation learns the survivors have taken shelter at the laundromat in Pripyat. He assembles a squad of free stalkers, including the now retired Zulu. Together, they pioneer a path through the Jupiter underground, eventually reaching Pripyat and linking up with the survivors led by Colonel Kowalski. Degtyarev is told it's likely some of the helicopters were disabled by a powerful weapon possessed by the monolith. Together, they organize an ambush for the monolith, and after a fierce fight, the weapon is recovered and discovered to be a Gauss rifle. Degtyarev also learns the location of Lab X8. He raids it himself and secures many documents assured to be of interest to his superiors. Meanwhile, Colonel Kowalski learns communications are being jammed by a monolith signal. Degtyarev is dispatched to deal with the jamming. He locates the source of the signal and destroys it, finally re-establishing communications with military command. Upon returning to the laundromat, Degtyarev finds S.T.A.L.K.E.R has arrived there as well. He explains he's been to the CNPP and wishes to share all he knows with the government. He also reveals the real reason the helicopters were downed. The maps of the anomaly fields provided to the pilots were useless since the anomalies change location with each new blowout. However, if the anomalies are scanned right after a blowout, the maps will be accurate until the next one. After learning this, Degtyarev contacts command and a rescue mission is immediately dispatched. After a final battle against monolith forces, the survivors of Operation Fairway, along with Major Degtyarev and S.T.A.L.K.E.R, are evacuated from the zone. Their fates remain unknown. Well, that's it. That's the end of the officially confirmed Stalker timeline. There are some events left out because they are either unconfirmed or unofficial. And, at the time of making this video, Stalker 2 has not been released yet, but I am excited for the day it does release to hopefully learn the fate of some of our favorite factions and characters. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there in the zone, fellow mercs. And I guess, fellow stalkers. This is the Zone Operator, signing off.